Good evening, everyone. I signed up for this draft a little while ago, and I decided last minute here to put this live stream together. Figured with all the running back news that's been going on, and Zeke signing with New England, Dalvin signing with the Jets today, I'm sure that it's kind of created this stir and chaos in fantasy football. So I figured you guys would be interested to see where those guys go in tonight's draft that I'm doing. So we'll be on. As you can see, the first round has already started. I'm at pick 12, and it's moving right along. Just give me a second so I can catch up. See what I'm gonna do here on the turn. So I'm going to go for about 45 minutes. That should get us through most of the first half of the draft, and we'll get to see where some of these players are going with this new ADP, and you guys get to see how I'm constructing my team from the back end on this. It's a RotoWire online championship. It's a $350 entry. And we are taking a shot here to win $250,000. So tournament style format. So you're looking for upside in these type of tournaments. You got to beat a pretty big field of a bunch of teams. I've done quite a bit of these. So far,
you are on deck.
A lot less though than last year, and it's been tough to stay away from these because the ADP is all over the place. Guys are just going all different points in the draft, and it makes for fun drafting at this point. It's not very vanilla. So I'm on the clock now. Let me see. How do I want to build this team?
You are up.
Yeah, so like I was saying, it's really fun to draft right now just because of the player ADPs are just all over the place. So it creates that uncertainty. Every draft is unique, and I haven't seen this in prior years. In prior years, usually, drafts just, guys just start getting locked into a certain window of ADP, and it's pretty much, pretty wild right now. On the turn, I decided to go with A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley. I don't believe that I actually have. I might have that pairing already with one team. I'm going to take a look and adjust off of that. Make sure I'm just not taking like the same players with it, and build a different looking team. Also, if you guys have questions in the chat, go ahead and type them in. I'll pull them up whenever I get a chance and be able to answer them. For anyone that's new to NFFC, a couple of things for you guys to know. It is for quarterback scoring, it's 6 points a touchdown pass, PPR. And for the draft, it's third round reversal. So after the second round, the first pick in the third round goes back to me. So it's a unique format. This was done way back during the LaDainian Tomlinson days, where it was a huge advantage to have the number one pick. And now in the format. I actually think that there's an advantage. I mean, I want to have, a few shares of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, but I think there is an advantage of drafting on the back end of these drafts. All right, so Connor has a question, and he's asking if I like Tyreek over Cup in PPR. And the answer is yes, I do. I've got Tyreek ahead of Cup. So that's, if I was sitting in the 4-hole, that's how I would have gone. Well, Team 4's got the Tyreek Waddle combo. I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag in the thought that, once you take those two guys, very similar to Chase and Higgins, that you're looking for a possible Miami stack. The other interesting pick so far, it's the guys going off the board pretty standard. The one exception is probably Joe Mixon going in the second round. He tends to go third, fourth round usually. But of course, I picked this draft, and I'm telling you guys at the start of the show that ADP's been all over the place, guys going everywhere. And so far, it's been pretty standard and vanilla. But I think we got to wait a couple of more rounds to see if things get a little crazy.
You are on deck.
Don't you do it, Team 1. Don't you do it. I know what you're thinking, but don't do it. It will be good for the show. Trust me. And it would be good for me. He's taking too long to pick. I already know what's going to happen here. There's a certain player in mind that I want here. And I got it. We're going to go with a little Eagle stack. So again, I had mentioned NFFC, 6 points passing touchdown. Quarterback scoring is definitely higher than your regular 4 point a touchdown scoring league. And these top 3 quarterbacks tend to go, by the end of the second round, they're usually off the board. Once in a while, you see one of them creep up and make it to the third round. So that's kind of unique. I think, I mean, I've done enough of these that usually A.J. Brown, might go off the board, pick 9, pick 10, and Jalen Hurts just doesn't make it there. So if you really want that stack, you have to take Hurts in the second round, a little bit early. So this is actually pretty cool. I know I don't have this team with Saquon at this point. Yep. Bobo knew. He knew what I was looking at. Yeah, so for me, I'm pretty excited with this start. This year I am a early quarterback drafter, and I think there is an edge in grabbing one of these top quarterbacks. And I think after I'm not gonna push the issue, but I think there is like a little bit of a drop off at some point in the second round, and I rather just call it safe. But outside of an injury, these top three QBs are pretty much bust proof. Um, so and then their ceiling is just huge. So I I um, do have part of my strategy this year is incorporating these guys. And again, in a tournament style format, which this is, where you got to beat a lot of teams to try to win 250,000. I want to have, and I'm a high volume drafter, so I do several of these. I want to have a different mix of all these quarterbacks, and especially these top ones that are capable of breaking a week. So these guys are capable of breaking fantasy, and in a short window in the shootout, where it's a 3-week sprint, you're trying to score the most points possible. That's you want to have exposure to these guys. So let's look at some of these teams. We've had 3 teams start off wide receiver, wide receiver. I always do pay attention to those teams because usually that's kind of my style of how I like to draft. I like to have strong wide receiver play and then pretty good quarterback in this format, and then I'll figure out the running backs. So my focus has been I do, and obviously I went differently, and I took Saquon this time around. The other pick would have been either Pollard or Garrett Wilson for me at that turn. Just decided to go Saquon tonight. I have 2 more drafts tonight, and I'm picking towards the back end, so I might go a different route next time. So for people that ask, hey, I was watching, you took this guy, but you got him ranked, 1 or 2 spots ahead of the other guy. Why did you do that? Again, I'll move players around, up and down my board, just depending on how I want to build a team that particular night. All right. So if Hertz didn't drop to me, where would I have gone? Uh, it was going to be Josh Allen. I would have just taken the other elite quarterback and moved on. But with having AJ Brown, I definitely was rooting for Hertz to fall. And there you go. So you have a preseason game. You throw 2 passes behind the line of scrimmage. They go for touchdowns. And now Justin Fields is a 3rd-round pick. All right, let's see here. So, Rob, let's say this wasn't 3rd-round reversal. Knowing how the draft board played out, who would your 312, 401 picks be? I find back end of the draft is hard at the 3-4 turn in a non-3rd-round reversal. 100% it is. It's very tricky. So in a traditional snake format, if you've got the 1 or 2 hole, right, this 3-4 turn here is very tricky. So based on that, there's players that are not off the board just yet. Hold on. Your question is board played out 312 and then 401. Okay, so let me think about that one. Um, but I think there's players that are still not off the board that I might have selected, and I don't want to mention those names right now. Just draft etiquette. Try not to mention guys that haven't been drafted. And I'll tell you, Rob. So hold that thought. I definitely will take a look at that and analyze it and see what I would have done differently. All right. So as you guys can see, we're not going to name names, but there's players that haven't been drafted, and there's players that have been drafted that has already shaken up the ADP and where guys have typically gone. All right, so I'm up in 3 picks. I'm just gonna go silent here for a second because I want to just think this through and see how I want to make this turn here. Hmm.
You are on deck. You are up.
All right. So there's some interesting running backs here on this turn, and I'm just trying to decide whether I want to take one of them with a receiver or if I want to go two wide receivers. I'm going to use all of my clock because I want to think this through and I want to talk it out so that you guys understand like what's going through my mind. So my first pick that I'm definitely going to be taking is Mike Williams. And then my decision now is I'm just trying to figure out if there's a running back here that I want to take or if I'm going to push it back. I already have Saquon. So it's one of those things where I'm very comfortable doing kind of like the hero running back approach. And I've got the one guy that I can hang my hat on and I can basically punt or push back RB2. In this format, you do have to start three wide receivers. And like I've told you guys that for me, it's important to get good wide receiver play. So let's see. I'm going to take Chris Godwin. I probably have him ranked higher than most. I think a lot of people are pretty down on the Tampa offense. And if you guys have watched my podcasts with Vlad and Maddie, and also any of my live streams, if the subjects come up, I actually, when people are down, like on a certain offense, especially with talented players like Godwin, I tend to, want to be on that player. And I don't think, I think obviously, losing Brady is a big deal, but I think the drop off with, Baker and Trask, I think the offense is going to be okay. And I think Godwin is going to be the guy that's going to be operating in the middle of the field and is going to soak up a lot of those targets. If anything, I mean, I don't want to mention names, but it is what it is. I want to explain the situation. If anything, like I would think Evans would be the guy that would be impacted most, with him working mostly outside the numbers, and then just trying to have that chemistry with one of those new quarterbacks in the red zone. That could have an impact. But I feel like his ADP kind of reflects that, where as Godwin, like if I had to project like range of outcomes, I'm looking at Godwin as his floor, I think, is actually a 85, 90 catch guy. And I think his ceiling is, 100, 105 catch guy. So I would put him in that range. So I like him quite a bit, especially there at the beginning of the 5th round. Again, gotta start 3 wide receivers. I do not usually like going too running back heavy and then having to choose. Although there's exciting, receivers later in this draft, I just never feel comfortable. The later you go, the hit rate and the miss rate, the hit rate gets smaller and the miss rate gets bigger. So I really don't want to have poor wide receiver play or anything like that. So I'm trying to take those guys that are like number ones, in their offense. All right, I'm just going to catch up, and then I'm going to go back to Rob's question, and then we're going to analyze this board here. All right, so Rob, your question was, if this was flipped and it came back to me and it played out this way, which way would I go with my picks? And based on going AJ Brown, Saquon, I obviously wouldn't get, Hurts. So I would be looking at, I probably would go Watson, Hopkins, and that's how I would do that 3-4 turn probably. All right, Marty, do you like the wide receivers that Team 8 has with the KC stack? Yes, I do. So Team 8, well-accomplished player, knows what he's doing. And the KC stack with those 3 wide receivers, I believe actually that's probably the best way to play it if you're going to go with a Kansas City stack. I think that if you, again, in this format, you got to start 3 of them. I think that's the way to go. And it's tough to pull off because you're taking tight end and QB with your first 2 picks, and you need to start 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. In the past, I've always been big on not doing that, not taking a quarterback and a tight end early. I feel like your other positions start lacking a little bit and are a little weak. But I've definitely become open-minded to it, especially knowing that I had that Mahomes-Kelsey stack last year. The team did very well, made the playoffs. And I know that stack pretty much in the playoffs got hot and won people a lot of money. So, but it's tricky to navigate through and pull it off. Kevin, CEO of FTN Fantasy, has joined the live stream, so he's watching. Appreciate you, Kevin. So let's talk about where these running backs went, right? That was kind of like the point of the show. So the first one, Ramondre Stevenson, he ended up going at 4.9 in this draft, which is it's a discount. It's obviously later than what he has been going in drafts. So I actually think that's a fair price for him. I did think that third round is. I think you're being a little bullish on Stevenson if you continue to take him in the third round and you feel that he's not going to get impacted by Zeke. What I will say is this. I've always been a Pollard homer, not a big fan of Zeke through the years. Do I think he's washed? I think he's getting there, but I don't think he's there just yet. And with the Patriots signing him, my worry with Stevenson, where I would give pause on drafting him, is the fact that Zeke is elite in pass protection, and Belichick, you just never know what you're going to get from him because, through the years, it's always been a committee backfield. And last year was kind of like the first year in a long time where that changed and it was different. And I could see that going back to the old ways. And, Stevenson's really good in the passing game. So people are like, okay, Zeke's going to take some short yardage. He's going to take goal line. That's what I would assume also. But you got to keep in mind, we're fantasy players and we can't think like fantasy players. We have to also think, how are these NFL coaches thinking and how do they value these players, right? So my concern is, does Zeke, work on passing downs a little bit and then take a little bit of the goal line away? I know he hasn't been efficient, with his goal line touches, but I'm just saying Stevenson wore down at the end of the season and they bring in Zeke and you just never know. Week one comes and you're beside yourself because you can't believe that they're playing Zeke over Stevenson on passing downs. It happens. So that's just fair warning on him. I'm just going to catch up on the draft here, and then we're going to talk about Breece Hall. All right. So Breece Hall ended up going at 5.4 in this draft, and that's basically what I predicted all along, even when right when draft season started, and where I had him ranked pretty much was in the fifth round. I always thought that he was a fifth round guy. If you guys follow me, which by the way, if you guys don't follow me and don't read my work, go join High Stakes package over at FTN Fantasy, and I have a discount for you guys. It's High Stakes 20 will get you 20% off my package, normally $199. Get access to my fade list, get access to my rankings, some articles that I wrote this off season, and you get access. Most importantly, you get access to me 24/7 on the Discord chat, and during the season, my fab article. So my waiver wire recommendations with dollar amounts. But for you guys that do follow my work, you guys know that, I have a rule that I follow, which is I never draft, a player coming off ACL surgery the following year. So Breece was a guy that I was not interested in, especially at his second, third round ADP that he had been at. see. Okay. This is going to be wow. This is going to be another interesting turn. We'll see if Team 10 and Team 11 clean it up a little bit here, but I think I've got a few options that I'm interested in here. So I don't think they can shut us out on this turn.
You are on deck. You are up.
All right. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the clock, which is going to upset the people in the draft, wondering why Nelson's taken so long to pick. But I want to explain my process. So here I'm going to take my fourth wide receiver. Okay. And there's no running back that really sticks out to me that is like a must have here. There's a couple of good ones that we could argue, but I actually want to be able to grab an edge at tight end also. So I'm actually going to take here. We're going to take the first guy is going to be Gabe Davis. I think we're in for a rebound year with Gabe over in Buffalo. And I want to take another potential edge at tight end, and that's going to be Darren Waller. And this is like one of my favorite ways to build my teams, and I just punt RB2. And then what I'll do is later in the draft, I'll just paint it green, and I'll probably take one guy that I think is like kind of safe that I can play on a weekly basis. And then it's just going to be a bunch of ceiling high upside handcuff type running backs the rest of the way. I'll also, because the strength of my team or my perceived strength is the wide receiver play, I'm going to want to continue with that strength, and I'll take a fifth and sixth wide receiver fairly early here. So I won't just, continue to paint it green and take a bunch of running backs now that I have four wide receivers. I want my bench wide receivers to be playable where, you have bye weeks that come up, you have injuries, and then just certain matchups. So I definitely want to have, especially that fifth wide receiver, I want to have someone that's pretty decent. So that's typically how I like to build my teams. And from the back half of the draft and the corners of the draft, whether you're in the 1 hole or the 12 hole, typically it's tough to pull this off because you have like runs at certain positions and the players just don't quite make it to you. They get picked off. But so far, like on the turns, it's actually been great where it's stretched just enough. And here lately, I think in most like regular formats, this is not like a great price for Waller, but I gotta be honest, I got Waller ranked pretty high, and lately he's been going like in the 5th round. So this is a pretty good deal on Waller. Just catching up here on the draft. I will answer some questions that are in the chat here. Give me 1 second. Also, I got to talk about Breece Hall too. So let me go back to that. I don't think I finished my thought process. So with Breece Hall, when the draft season started, I always thought that he should have been a 5th round pick. I've got a strict rule of mine, which is I fade a running back that's coming off ACL surgery the following year. So Breece fit that category. And with his ADP of like second, third round, it was just easy for me at that point. I'll just let him beat me. That's kind of like my philosophy when I think a guy's just going too early. I thought, in my opinion, the correct ADP for him was fifth round. I thought at that point, okay, if your fifth round pick starts the season slowly, or doesn't work out, it's not the end of the season for you. You can still figure it out. Second, third round, man, you really gotta hit on those guys, or you're making things tough for yourself. So that's my opinion on the Brees situation. You add in the fact that now they've signed Dalvin, and I'm seeing on Twitter, or X, they call it these days. A lot of people are kind of doubling down on, for the ones that really, are in love with Brees and his skill set. And I'm with them. I believe in Brees Hall, that he's a great player. I just, again, I take emotion out of it, and I just follow that rule that I have of mine, and it is what it is. So I feel like there's a lot of people talking about that, Dalvin's not really going to impact Brees, and I think people are in denial. And again, I'm sharing my opinion. I know I've tweeted out a few things, involving Brees, and that's just to have a little fun and bust balls with people, because at the end of the day, it's not like I'm not a fan of Brees Hall. I am. I just think that he was mispriced. And it's interesting because people look at it as he shouldn't be discounted, that, he should still be going high. And it's like, man, I think you guys are lying to yourselves. Dalvin's going to be involved. The only thing that I will say, and especially in a tournament format, is if he gets discounted enough, I'll be in on Brees Hall for sure. Because in the second half of the season, if it plays out where Dalvin gets banged up or something happens to him, and it's the Brees show, and now he's stronger. First half of the season, I just don't think he's going to be all that great, and you guys are going to be happy starting him. But second half, yeah, he absolutely could be a beast. Second half of the season, and he could win somebody, their league, or win, a big overall contest. So that's what my thoughts on Brees. So what's interesting, Tua, in this draft, I think that's a little bit ahead of his ADP, but I look at it as, team four. If you had the two Miami receivers, you needed, rather than like get cute with it, I think you just needed to go ahead and bite the bullet and just take Tua. Seventh round, it feels, pretty safe with two guys behind you having, no, the team three took Watson, but it felt pretty safe that Tua would make it back to him. But obviously that team two had different things in mind, and he decided to take Tua. So that kind of sucks if that's what he was looking to do, was stack Miami. But I think the process was right to, play the board and look at it as like team one's got Fields, Watson's still on the board. Felt pretty comfortable. Wanted to get an edge at tight end, get Goddard, kind of like one of those last tight ends that you feel like you're pretty comfortable starting on a weekly basis, and maybe come back with Tua, and obviously that didn't work out. We're gonna go. Let's see, what do we got for time? Because I've got another draft coming up, and then two drafts at once with a live stream would make for a shitty show for you guys. Probably be comical for you guys watching, but not fun for me. So I'm going to go one more round. I'm going to answer the questions in the chat, and then we'll be done for the night, guys. So again, ask any questions you guys got before we go off air. Shoot. The way this draft is falling, I might just go ahead and take 2 more wide receivers, to be honest. We have guys like tripling up and going 4 running backs in the first 8 rounds.
You are on deck.
I don't know about that. So let's see if there's somebody that I like here.
You are up.
They did take 2 of my favorite wide receivers. So Sky Moore, Zay Flowers, definitely 2 of my most owned wide receivers. So that helps me from getting stubborn and punting RB2 even further back. Because if they had made it, I was definitely taking them. All right. We're going to go a wide receiver, and then we're going to go a running back. You're going to take Michael Thomas as our number 5. I've got so much of this one running back. They basically go same ADP, which is interesting. So, the market is trying to decide, who they like most. So they just kind of go around the same spot. I'm talking about Gibson and Robinson. For you guys, at FTN, you guys know that I have quite a bit of Brian Robinson. And although I draft like I'm always right, I am going to take Gibson this time around on this team. And it's, again, I could be wrong on the situation, but I have way more of Robinson, and I don't mind Gibson. I like Gibson, and he should be involved in the passing game. And if something happened to Robinson, Gibson could be, a league-winning type of, running back. So I've got enough Robinson that if something happened to Gibson and they just gave, Brian Robinson the 3-down role, I'm happy also. All right, let's get to your questions here, guys. All right. Was London ever a consideration with either of your last 2 picks? So back, I believe you talking about the 4-5 turn with London there, Mike Williams, Godwin. Yeah, so London was a consideration. It was those 3 wide receivers. And I want to pull the trigger on London. And I value those other 2 a little bit more, but it's a good question. Like I need to incorporate London into my teams because I think he's a very good wide receiver. So Yeah, good question. He was in consideration, but I definitely, passed on him. But it's a thought that I've had that I need to incorporate him a little bit, and that would have been like a good spot to take him there. All right, Nelson agrees with me. So that I'm catching up, guys. So that was probably from previous pick when I was talking about players, maybe Stevenson or Brees Hall. Um, Rob, I'm hoping you're talking about my team putting on a clinic, and that it's not someone else, and I'm getting crushed tonight. Thank you, Marty. Great start. Thank you, guys. Gun to head. Oh shit. All right, let's see here. Who would you rather have as your RB1? Brees in the fifth or Javante in the seventh? Um, Probably if that was the choice, like I have to have one or the other. Probably Brees in the fifth, even though it sounds like Javante obviously is ahead of Brees Hall at this point because it looks like Javante is going to be playing here in the second preseason game, and Brees we've got some question marks. I know something came out a couple hours ago with Brees might have been talking to a reporter. I have to catch up because I'm a little bit behind today, so I got to catch up on my football news. But I think there was something there about Brees saying that he's still experiencing some type of soreness with his knee and uncertainty with cutting, um, and it makes sense. I mean, there's all those reports of like him running in a straight line and running super fast. Yeah, I believe that it's going to be the lateral cuts and his lateral agility that's going to be affected, and both mentally and physically, he's got to get over those hurdles, and that just takes time. And you know, I think it's been well documented. You're talking about basically one guy, Adrian Peterson, that was able to overcome ACL surgery and the following year just have a monstrous season. No one else has really come back from that the following year. So it makes sense that he still has that uncertainty with cutting left to right and everything. All right, guys. So what we're gonna do, um, got about 10 minutes. We're gonna go to this next turn here of mine and make the picks, and then we are gonna uh, call it a night. I I got about 10 minutes. I still got time to do this. All right. Let's see here. So Marty asking if I'll take a backup QB or deal with it when the time comes. Yeah,
You are on
once I
deck.
take one of the top quarterbacks, I just go naked. I don't take a second QB. I'll just I'm always going to start Jalen Hurts unless an injury, and I'll just deal with it if that happens or his bye week comes up. I'll deal with it then.
You are up.
All right. So what I'm thinking here is it's going to be uh, two running backs, and I'm just deciding who the two guys are going to be.
You are up.
All right. So take Bigsby and Zamir White. Um, White, this is early for him, but again, I'm on the back half of the draft, so it's quite a bit of picks until my next turn. I just didn't feel like um, trying to finesse him. I want to be able to get a decent amount of Zamir White. You got Jacobs, who hasn't shown up to camp. Who knows what's going to happen? Is he going to hold out for part of the season? Is he going to come back, right before week one? Is he going to be in football shape if he does do that? Could he get hurt? There's a lot of questions. So at this point in the draft, I don't worry about ADP. I'm just taking guys that make sense for my team. And that's the reason for that pick. Bigsby, that's pretty much kind of where he's been going lately. I think the hype is a little bit overblown on Bigsby, just a bit, but I do like him. Um, I think he's not as good as everyone thinks, and ETN is not as bad as everyone thinks. So, but I do think that he could be involved in the passing game if ETN gets banged up. I think he's got a lot of upside in that offense. So that's the reason for that pick. Let's see here. All right. So sports betting man, gun to nads. Any thoughts on Kyler Murray? I don't. I think it's going to be one of those things with Kyler that he's probably not back until sometime later in the season. And I really don't know what to expect from him. So he's not a bad late round speculation, though. But he really hasn't been part of my thought process only because uh, usually I've made it a priority to address quarterback where I'm not, pushing it way back that he's in consideration. And then every time you see me draft, it's AJ Brown. Yeah. Hopefully he does stay healthy, but I like AJ Brown. I like that offense. So I'm definitely going to have a little more exposure to him than other wide receivers. So tonight, speaking of more drafts, I've got another draft here coming up very shortly, and then at midnight or just before midnight, my time, East Coast, Vlad and I have two separate teams, and we're going to be drafting against each other, and we're going to have that live streaming, and that should make for a fun show. So if you guys are West Coast or night owls, then tune in later tonight. All right, guys. That's it. We're gonna call it a night. I gotta get ready because I still gotta finish this draft, and then I gotta get ready for another draft. Get going. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully you guys got a little bit of clarity on some of these running backs and some of my thoughts on those players, and just seeing the different builds in this format and how teams are being put together. I'll talk to you guys later.